And now, ladies and gentlemen, Skywalker.
Thank you, Jim Davis, and thanks for tuning in to Radio Memories. We've got a great show today on Wednesday, October 20th, 2021, and thanks for tuning in. Southern California's own radio veteran, Maggie McKay, is our special guest today, and she's agreed to come on the show and share her radio memories. Joining us from her home in West LA is the beautiful, talented Maggie McKay, who not only is our announcer here on Radio Memories, but what a great radio veteran. She has been in the business, and she looks so young because, you know what? She takes youth pills, and she won't give me any. Because we've known each other for a long time. But you know what? She has so many experiences in the radio industry, and she has done some great things. Been on major market radio stations. One of the best voices. I'm so glad to have her on Radio Memories, and glad to have her on the show. And she's going to, share her stories today. Where did it all begin with you, Maggie McKay?
Can I remember back that far? I mean, it's been over 3 decades. I think closer to 4. You know what?
We don't say that, Maggie.
Yeah, you did, but I can say it. I was a photographer. I graduated from USC, and my mom said, "You're going to be a photographer after that kind of tuition?" And I go, "Yes, I am." So for about a year, I tried, and no, I interned and I apprenticed, I should say. And I found out that it was a very iffy way to live. Like, you never know how much you're going to make and when the next job's coming. So my second passion was music. So I thought, oh, I'll work at a radio station. Naive with a capital
Not
N.
much difference, from
exactly. So that's what my mom said. I said, so now I'm going to go into radio. And she's like, I give up. Like, are you kidding? And I'm like, no. So I called at the time, I think it was, the FM CBS. Come on, KNX FM.
KNX FM at the time when they were eclectic.
Yes. And I called that, and another KRLA, KLSX. And they both offered me secretary positions. And then, my mom is like, okay, that's fine to be a secretary, but again, not your major. I'm like, whatever, I'm taking it, get my foot in the door. So I chose KRLA, KLSX because I figured I could network double 2 stations, 2. So, because, KRLA had all the veterans.
Oh, yeah.
They had, when I was there, Wolfman Jack, Real Don Steele, Charlie Tuna, Gary Marshall, and on and on. So, I grew up listening to these guys. So, and then,
well, we both did, so just being surrounded around these people.
Right. Because you and I both grew up in LA. So, anyway, I worked as a secretary for a month for Mike Wagner, who was the program.
Great guy. Great PD.
Work with him at KISS?
I worked with him at KRLA. He was my PD when I did afternoons. Yeah. Oh,
well, somehow we didn't meet each other then, but
no, we just missed. I after Real Don Steele left to, I think, KODJ, Humble Harv. Replaced Don, and then Humble Harv went to weekends, and I replaced Humble Harv in afternoon drive.
Humble Harv used to call me his bro, and he used to say, "You're like a son to me, Maggie." And I'm like, "A son? Do I look like a boy?" That was just Humble Harvey. He's so awesome.
That was Harvey. Harvey, I've got this great picture. We're all at either at Dan Tana's or with this big send off as Mike Wagner is leaving KRLA, and having this conversation with Harvey, which was kind of confusing at times. Well, you would know.
Yeah. Can I back up? Because I forgot a key part to this story.
Okay.
I was dating someone who you know in the radio business. And I said, I want to get into radio. And he's like, good luck. But he said, you should try this little cable station in Malibu called K-Boo. I'm like, are you serious? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, all right. So I called and the guy said, yeah, you can work here. I'm like, I've never been on the air or anything. He's like, this is cable radio in Malibu. It's okay, but you have to bring your own records. And I'm like,
well, that's kind of cool.
Yeah. So I go, I never even met the guy. Never. He owned it, but he lived up in Topanga Canyon in like an Airstream or something. Legend has it. Nevertheless, I go to the address. It is literally, Dave, the janitor's closet in an apartment building with like 3 apartments on PCH in Malibu, just south, thankfully, of McDonald's. And I say, thankfully, not for the food, but for the bathroom.
Yeah.
So I had to put on long records and drive to McDonald's to go to the bathroom and drive back and get, Anyway, so that's where it all started. Hey,
oh, goodness. That's so funny.
Yeah. And no commercials. You're just playing your albums, vinyl. And people actually called in a lot.
Oh,
and yeah, it was, I want to say 86.
It's amazing how local radio was, and it really captured the audience. As soon as we started with all, playing 4 commercials in a row, then became 6 commercials in a row. Then it became 9 commercials in a row.
Yeah.
And then it became 12 commercials in a row.
That's what pays the bills, dude. Listen, I didn't get paid at K-Boo, but I had a great time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it also had a swinging light bulb. That was the only electricity. And 2 turntables, fancy. It had 2 turntables. Oh, and then, okay, so we'll get back to where we were. So I'm working as secretary. Mike Wagner, he's an awesome guy, and we're still in touch today. Love him. And after a month, they said you could be full time. It was on a trial basis. It was between me and another girl, and pit you against each other, Dave. And we weren't. We were nice to each other. But anyway, I got to stay as his assistant, and I learned so much. And I learned I wanted to be on the radio. And I thought, I can do that. Right. Again, naive with a capital N. But this
ignorance is bliss.
It is. And when you're young, why not go for it?
Oh, yeah.
You're young, single, you can do whatever you want. So I loved working for him. And so this guy always called. He was the PD at K-Surf, Steve Day. He and I were friends. Would you know him?
Yeah.
Who doesn't? Everyone's worked at K-Surf at some point.
Oh, yeah. Me too.
Yeah, I'm sure you're out.
Oh, yeah.
So anyway, Steve Day called me all the time to say, any openings. I didn't know him. And I said, no. But then we got talking on the phone because he called often. And I said, where do you work? And he said, and I go, well, I should be working for you on your air. And he's like, you're the secretary. I'm like, listen, not so fast. I can try it and you can give me a shot and then we'll see. And he's like, no. But after a while, I, what do they say? Ground him down. And he's like, okay, just be quiet.
Persistence.
Yes. Or stupidity. I don't know. But nevertheless, I was working there 9 to 5. And I was also working at KTLA 6 to 11 at night as a grunt because I wanted to do TV news. So I thought, I'll get my foot in the door there too. So I was working like in the day at KRLA KLSX. Then I had an hour to go from, Wilshire to Hollywood to KTLA. Love that. And I got up at 11. So Dave, that left many hours in the day for me to have a third job, of course. So Steve said, when do you think you're going to work here? I said, well, whenever you tell me. So I said, weekends in the day. And he's like, let's start with overnights. So midnight to 6, swear to God. I said, give me a month. And if I suck, you can unhire me. Wouldn't be fire me because it was a trial. So he's like, okay. So after a month, I sucked. And he said, okay, you're not very good. I said, I know, but give me one more month. And he's like, oh my God. And I'm like, what do you care? No one's on the air anyway. So he's like, all right, because we were friends. So I took my sad little cassette tape, that's how old, to Humble Harv, Charlie Tuna, Real Don Seal, Wolfman Jack wasn't at the station, but all the guys there, Gary Marshall. And I said, can you listen to this and rip it apart and tell me what to do so I can stay on the air? So they did. They gave me, their feedback. And so with that, I got to stay on the air at KSurf, but working like around the clock, no matter how young you are, was a little crazy. So I had to give up something. Mm-hmm. So I think I gave up KTLA, but I still had KRLA and KLSX. Right. So working 9 to 6 and then midnight to 6, like, So then they said, we also at KSurf, and that was Monday through Friday. At KSurf, they said, we want you to also be the promotions director. And I'm like, oh, so flattered, not thinking, idiot, you're going to be working double for the same pay.
Yeah.
I thought, oh, isn't that a compliment?
Well, in a sense it was, but not
really. So anyway, I go, okay. So then I had to quit KRLA KLSX because then I was coming in the day to do promotion stuff. And I loved it. In fact, I said, I want to go to Tahiti. And they're like, what? I said, if I can get a trip to Tahiti for 5 couples and I'll be the 6th couple, can that not count as my vacation? And you'll pay me while I'm there. And they're like, yeah, you have no problem. You do that. Because they thought, no way. And I did, Dave. I did. I got the airfare free, the hotel free. We did like a jillion, as mentions on air. But I did go to Tahiti. And then, of course, I had to do some call-ins from there. But anyway, so that was fun. I love doing promotions. And then
Sure.
Yeah. And then after KSurf, it's all a blur, I'm telling you. But I've worked at a lot of places. But that's how it got started.
Well, it's almost like the WKRP song, up and down the dial. You suddenly forget. It becomes a blur.
To get my resume to say, where did I work again? Because it's been so many years. And some have been full-time, some have been part-time, some have been weekends. The first one was overnight. I worked in the only place besides LA I worked is Ventura at the bus, KXPT and Q105, mostly Q105, which at the time was like their number one station. The Q105 one I liked a lot because I did news in the morning. I was not a DJ there. I did news in the morning, sidekick with a morning man. That's how it was done in those days.
Oh, yeah.
Pearl was the sidekick.
Always.
But I was also the public service director who did all the shows.
Yeah. And that's how, the females were always kind of put aside.
But I will say I learned a lot and had a splice with Reel to Reel. And I loved it because I could invite my own guests, whoever interested me. So I am grateful for that experience, for all the experience I had. One station I won't mention, smaller station. I found out I was the only woman there on air. And I found out all the men were making 300 more a week or a month than I was.
There's a Mary Tyler Moore episode, and you and I go this far back, but Lou Grant, Mary finds out that the person that was doing her job prior was a man, and he was making 3 times as much. And so she approaches Lou Grant, and he admittedly says, well, he was a man.
Even though it was quite a long time ago.
In the 70s.
He would have got, no, I didn't even start till late 80s.
I know, but that was in the 70s.
Oh, yeah. But I'm saying if this PD had said that, he probably would have gotten in trouble. There was HR. If you want to keep working and keep in people's minds and have them hear you, you do jobs maybe you wouldn't want to, like the PSA thing.
You move on. You get a job. You're at KXEZ, was it called?
I worked there, yes, KXEZ.
Which was a very soft AC in Los Angeles.
Yes, it was down the hall.
which was formerly down the hall from where I worked at Star 98.7.
Right.
And in those days, you and I used to get in lots of trouble because we were, and it's funny because you and I were always like brother and sister. Yeah. We always had that kind of relationship. Yeah. We never, we just kind of were like two kids in school.
Yeah.
And it's kind of funny because I remember one time we're driving in Santa Monica and we're just laughing in the car. And I don't know, some car besides us is mad that we're laughing and they start chasing us. Do you remember?
No.
Oh God, yes. And you go, what do I do? You said to me, what do I do? And I said, turn here. And they just kept going straight.
Well, but and our friend Scott, who worked at K-Rock, Scott Mason.
Yeah.
He was upstairs and we were, he was at the adults building. He was upstairs at K-Rock and we were at Star KXEZ.
Right.
Remember?
Yeah.
And the earthquake. Were you there?
Well, after I got off the air that day of the earthquake, because I got off at midnight.
I was there during the earthquake.
Yeah.
And I called Dave Beasley and I said, Dave, because he was the PD. I said, guess what? Okay. Did I interrupt you? Probably, but I'm going to keep going now since I'm already in.
No, go ahead.
So the earthquake, and then there was someone else at Star, I won't mention, on the air.
We know who it was.
Well, it doesn't matter because
he ran out of the building. I'll just tell you that.
I know, because CDs are flying off the wall, and I'm like, and we're in a brick building. I don't like this. It was Martin Luther King Day, I believe. Nevertheless, whoever was there, minimal, maybe two guys. And I said, don't close the fire doors. We had to take the stairs. I said, don't close the fire doors behind you. Put like a newspaper or a magazine in them because otherwise we're going to get locked out. And they're like, hey, what are you talking about? Of course, because I'm a girl. And sure enough, they were behind me and they did not. And we got locked out of the building.
Yeah, panic.
During the earthquake. So we called the fire department. They let us in, but it was an hour. And that's when they had a earthquake CD from then on in a studio. In case an earthquake hit, you put the CD in and it goes forward 2 hours. But I called Dave Beasley. He was so sweet.
Nice guy. Really nice guy.
Nice. I love him. I said,
I do too, yeah.
He goes, it's okay. Are you safe? I'm like, yeah. And he said, then don't worry about it. I'm like, all right. So whatever. I mean, that was crazy. That was scary.
What's crazy, and I'll just finish my story. When I got off the air at midnight, and you were still on the air, and I told you I'm going to go see Scott upstairs at K-Rock because he's on all night, and he wanted me to stay and hang and then go to breakfast afterwards. I stayed with Scott till 2 a.m. I said, Scott, I'm really tired. I can't make it. Got home at 3 o'clock. And then at 3, whatever, everything started shaking.
Yeah.
And so I immediately called the Star hotline.
Yeah.
Nobody answered. Nobody answered. So I called Scott and at the K-Rock hotline. And Scott says, go on the air with me. And okay, I did.
Yeah.
I said, what happened to Star? Do you know? He goes, your boy ran out of the building like a, I won't say the word he used.
Well, I mean, it was scary. It was shaking and literally CDs are flying off the racks at you. So that's fine. But just put the newspaper in the door jamb so you don't get locked out. That's all.
The only man that stayed at his post and reported and actually ended up on CBS News, not only local, but national, was Scott Mason.
I know.
He stayed at his post.
Yeah. But Dave did say you did the right thing getting out of there because it is a brick building. And who knew how big it was going to be, But yeah, Scott was a wonderful guy.
So where do you go after there?
Well, also while I was there, because you always have two jobs, Dave, if you're part-time. You can't live on one. You can't live on two.
It's true. Yeah, it's true.
I was also working at the time it was called Unistar, and then it was called Westwood One, and then Global One, and Dial One. I don't even know what it was in the world it's called.
Well, that name changed so many times. It's back to Westwood One.
Oh, is it? Okay. So I worked there on the country format with Steve Penny, who I loved. He was so great. He goes, do you know country? I'm like, yes, I do. No idea. But my dad used to play it in the car. So I thought, okay, that counts. And then remember those books, Joel Whitburn? He made a book.
Oh yeah. Right.
Every genre or every.
We had them in every studio.
Yeah. So he had one on country. Thank you, Joel. And I scoured.
Yeah, because I worked at the Oldies channel.
Yeah. So I just memorized that book. And by the time I got on the air there, I did know. And we were on 200 plus stations around the world.
Yeah.
Satellite. So anyway, I worked there. I worked at KXCZ from 6 to midnight. And then I drive up to Valencia and work 4 a.m. to 8 a.m. and for a few years. And then when I started falling asleep at the wheel on the 405 at 8 a.m. on a Saturday and people honking, I said, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
And so then my friend, my very dear friend, Mary Price, who worked at Aero 93, said, they need someone to do news fill-in during the holidays. And I'm like, oh, okay. So that's how I started at Aero, at news fill-in, and then became a jock soon thereafter. And I worked every shift there, I think, except middays and mornings. And Tommy Edwards was so nice to me and really gave me a shot. And I think I started, whatever it was, I went backwards on the clock. I think I did 2 to 6 and then 6 to 10. You know what I'm saying? I can't remember, but nevertheless, I worked there for 8 years and I had so much fun. It was so great. And then it became Jack with no jocks.
Right.
Jack FM.
Right.
In which I work. Our Wave studio is right next door to the Jack FM studio, which is so funny. Total 360, whatever. So anyway, Aero was a lot of fun.
Boy, talk about changing formats on 93.1 so many times. KODJ, CBS FM, Aero 93, Jack FM.
That's the only time I didn't have to go in to be let go, which was fine with me because at the time my son was 1 or 2. And I'm like, you're saving me from doing hair and makeup to get fired, you know? And it wasn't really fired, it was laid off, whatever you want to call it. The format changed. Yeah. Which I can't tell you how many times I've, been through that. Quite a few.
It's just the nature of the business.
It's fine. And same with KFWB. I did afternoon talk show with Michael Chappé.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
KFWB, that was really, really fun. A lot of work because it was, the staff was downsized to just the bare bones, but I learned a ton. And then they sold that as well. And we knew they were selling it. You always know. It's not like it's a surprise.
No. Yeah. It's never a surprise.
What? I'm like, we knew for 2 years. Where were you?
And I remember when we got to reunite at CBS and suddenly they had you filling in at K Earth 101.
Oh, right. That's right.
And one of the funniest things is because you've always known me as Dave. Later, I had gone to Kiss FM and Steve Rivers had changed my name to Skywalker. And then I used that for a long, long time and stopped using that because I had become a conservative talk show host and done different things. And then I became a general manager of a radio station. So I had pretty much removed myself from Skywalker until 2008 when Johnny Kay offered me a gig. And he said, well, you know what? I think people would remember the name, and we're an oldies station, and I would prefer you to use the name Skywalker. And I said, that's fine. You know, I don't care. It was pretty much Weekends and Phil. The utility guy, as a matter of fact, he said, if I call you at any point in time, will you be available? And I said, sure. And he did. He would call me at the last minute.
I know that.
So I became the kind of the utility guy. And then he didn't like tracking his overnight show. So I ended up doing pretty much the overnight show.
Yeah. Which
is very difficult when you're 48 years old. It's great when you're 22.
Yeah.
Because you can stay up all night.
Yes.
But when you haven't done it for such a long time, it really throws you off, throws your momentum. Just a different story. And it's funny because I remember one weekend, you're on the air before me.
Uh-oh.
And you say, hey, Earth 101. And that's it for Maggie McKay. My good friend, Dave Skywalker is next.
Big deal.
And after you turned off the mic, I go, no, Maggie, my name is Sky. My first name is Sky. And my last name is Walker. It's not Dave here.
Oh, well.
and he started laughing hysterically. We both did, as a matter of fact. And I thought and for some reason that stays in my memory.
Yeah. At my expense. That's hilarious. I do remember it now that you bring it up. I also worked at
because we laughed. It wasn't it. You know what? I didn't care. It's the middle of the night. Yeah. And I didn't give her. I didn't care. And we laughed just like when we were younger, as kids.
Yep. Yeah.
And you have had such a great, successful career. You are on KNX.
I am.
News radio, still working. One of the few people that are still working.
I'm also at the Wave.
I was just about to mention that.
Yes.
And still working at KTWV.
Yes.
94.7 The Wave.
I've been very fortunate.
So she
interview Dr. Fauci during the pandemic.
I know you did.
That was really thrilling. And I'm also doing a speaker series. It's called Los Angeles Distinguished Speaker Series. I do the Pasadena venue. They have 4 or 5 venues. I like news because every day is different. The stories, you never know what you're going to be talking about or what's going to happen or breaking news. And I love music because that's just my passion. So
you do news extremely well. You're very talented. So nice. You do the Wave extremely well, and it's a complete different persona. You're a very talented person, but I've known that for years and years and years. I'm so happy to have you on Radio Memories. I can't believe you agreed to.
Oh, please. I love your show. It's awesome.
Thank you. And I'm thank you. I thank you from the bottom of my heart. And just for agreeing to do this, and you continue to be successful because you're very talented. I thank you for coming on the show, and I invite you to come on anytime.
Oh, I'll come.
You always
lots more stories.
I know you do, and I want you to come on anytime.
Okay.
Anytime. You have an open invitation. You and I are good friends.
Yes.
Maggie, until we talk again, take care of yourself.
Thank you. You too, Dave, and continued success on this show. It's awesome. I love it.
Thank you. Maggie McKay truly deserves the kindest person in broadcasting award. She really is one of the nicest people you will ever meet in radio. If you are her friend, she is friends for life. And she will come to your aid at any time, any place, anywhere. Thank you, Maggie. And I can't wait to get you back on the show so you share some of the fun stories. Okay, next week, the big guns start coming out. A national superstar. Oh boy, we're talking about a legend. Joe Cipriano, national voiceover star, Joe Cipriano. And guess what? He used to be just like us. He started out as a disc jockey. A lot of people don't know that. Joe Cipriano is going to be here to share his radio memories.
Check out past interviews on the Radio Memories YouTube channel and on Spotify. Click the links. This is Maggie McKay for Radio Memories, a Dave Schuyler production.